Hello and welcome to Tech Tuesday. I am so thrilled that you guys are here. Today's going to be a great show, and I'm really excited to have you with me. We're going to be talking about one of my passion topics, which is online security for older adults. And before I have my guests come on, I am going to go ahead and run our fabulous animated intro, and I'll see you in just a second. I'm now. I'm not exactly sure. Welcome to Tech Tuesday, Partha and Chloe from Fellow Fox. Would you be so kind as to introduce yourself and explain what you do with Fellow Fox? Chloe?
Sure. Chloe, go ahead.
Yeah, my name's Chloe Cattell. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Fellow Fox, and I'm going to turn it over to Partha to give the details on what we're doing because he's our CEO.
Yep. So as Chloe said, my name's Partha Ray. I'm the CEO of Fellow Fox. And what we do here at Fellow Fox is empower seniors and older adults to avoid scams and fraud on their own. It's kind of like learning a defense mechanism, a behavioral change that gives you guys the power to make decisions on your own that are going to make you avoid scams and fraud. And that comes through a course that you take, which is about an hour-and-a-half course online, and then a community where you guys can all post together along with us if you have questions or comments or want to tell somebody about a new scam that's coming up. And then there's also a support hotline in case you have a question that may not be answered. So that's it in long and in the short.
I love that. I love that. Now, I really like how you said defense. It's a defense mechanism. Now, you may not know this about me, but I'm a black belt in Taekwondo.
Nice.
I try not to flex too often, but people would always say to me, "Oh, you're a black belt in Taekwondo. Could you protect yourself in the event of, an attack or something?" And right now, I can tell you, no, I'm not, because I couldn't, because I'm not doing it regularly.
Takes practice.
Right?
Yeah.
It's not an instinct for me right now. I might be able to, but I'm not 100% confident because, I'm not being schooled in it weekly or, going to class every, 3 days a week. So I really and truly believe that this aspect of online security and scams when it comes to older adults has so much to do with a defense mechanism. So can you tell me about that, how your course teaches them?
Yeah, absolutely. So to begin with, I structured this course because my mother was almost scammed out of $50,000. And so I sat back for several months and was like, how can I make a framework so my mother
Wait. I'm sorry. You just said a big number. And
yes.
I need to say something about $50,000. That's a lot.
Yes.
That's a lot. Now, I'm working with older adults all the time, and I've seen maybe 3,000, maybe 5,500, but 50,000? How did that happen?
Well, we'll get back to the framework in a minute, but basically she had a Geek Squad account for many years, and then she moved to Colorado, and she got a call saying that the Geek Squad wanted to help her cancel her account because she wanted to cancel it. And they're like, we want to help you get your $500 back. And then they sort of talked her into getting to this website where she had to type in her $500 refund amount. And she typed it in. And of course, it's a scam website. And through that website, they got access to her computer, which she had access to her bank accounts. And essentially what they did was they told her to type in $500. And then they put on the big drama act. And they're like, oh, my God, you typed in $50,000. I'm going to lose my job. And then tried to con her into moving the money back to them. But what they had actually done in the background was, since they had access to her bank account, they transferred $50,000 from her savings account to her checking account. And when she looked at her checking account, it looked like she got a refund for $50,000, but it was really her own money. So,
That makes me so mad. You know that this situation, if I was an emoji right now, I would be the bright red frowning emoji, would just be like in your face. This makes me so mad because usually this happens in a very innocent transactional way. However, what I heard you say was she got a call.
Yep.
Right? And that's one thing, like, I'm always trying to teach my students is that, like, Apple's not going to call you.
Yep.
And they're not going to tell you to renew or upgrade your Apple ID or else. And so that's something that's really important is these telltale signs of how you are being scammed, right?
Yep. And that's where we lead to with the framework, right? Because these scams come in different shapes and sizes and colors, and they're always going to keep changing. I mean, since the time of before the Lord was born or whatever, like in the early thousands, there were scammers like trying to scam your gold, right? They called them shekels back then or whatever. So the form or fashion that a scam is going to come to you, it shouldn't matter. What should matter is your instincts telling you that it might be a scam. And the minute you detect that, that's when you're like, nope, I'm not going to do it. Because that's all it takes. It takes for you to not do an action for you to avoid a scam. Like don't pick up the phone. Don't respond to a text message. Don't click on a link. It's a lot of nothing is what makes you avoid scams.
A lot of nothing. Yep. I like that. A lot of inaction.
Yep.
Right?
Makes it easy.
Yes. Yes. So tell me, so you run this course. You said it's about okay, I have to be in all transparency. I took it. Yeah. You sent me the link. I wanted to take it. I do teach this topic quite often, and it's something, like I said, I'm really passionate about. So when you're teaching this, are you teaching it in groups or is it mostly a one-on-one, one-to-one?
It's one-to-one and it's self-paced, right? Now, I mean, we would prefer that you sat down and took the lessons, in a week's frame, so you don't forget the stuff. But it's self-paced. So you go offline, you got to go get coffee, you got to go to lunch, you can come back and it'll pick back up right where you left off.
Okay. And one thing I will tell you that I really liked about it is that each lesson is short. So it's not going to drag on for a long period of time and you're not going to lose someone's attention span. And it's also just like in bite, it's like bite-sized pieces. You're spoon feeding it, but you're reinforcing the information.
Yes. And, that's a very key takeaway there because there's a lot of information out there on the internet. I mean, you could go to the FTC website and you'll see pages and pages of scams, right? But how do I actually ingest that? How do I what is this? I was reading a story about somebody gets scammed. It's not going to click with me when a different situation comes to my life, right? And so it was important to make it like ADD sized chunks, right? To where somebody like me who has a short attention span can also pay attention to it.
Got it. And tell me also about your hotline. Like, I think that's amazing. I will often let my students know, listen, if you get a text, if you get an email, if you get a voicemail, just reach out to me and let me know. And I get these all the time. And I've started to create what I call a phishing file. Uh-huh. These are just these emails that we get from McAfee or Norton or Costco or whoever, and they're quite obviously to me a scam, but not to an older adult. So if someone comes across something and they're not sure, they can call your helpline.
Well, so there's two aspects to that. And one is the community aspect, because I'm not going to always be around. Chloe might not be around.
You're not always going to be around?
I'm around 23 and a half hours of the day, okay, but sometimes I got to sleep to keep this beautiful face,
Yes.
So, but so if I'm not around or someone's not around, that's what the community's for. You can post it there and everybody in the world can chime in, right? But on top of that, there's a support chat window that pops up on the Fellow Fox website, and you can quickly ask a question there. And that's right now staffed during normal business hours, but the plan in the future is to have it staffed 24 hours a day with knowledgeable people that can quickly help you get to the bottom of the solution, get to the bottom of the situation, which will end up probably being that we tell you it's a scam and to not interact with it. Because in the first place, it's probably a scam.
And Abby, one other thing, Partha, do you want to mention something that's in the works regarding the wizard and the skill?
Yeah, well, so everybody uses Alexa, right? So we're working on an Alexa skill where you can talk to Alexa and get in contact with Fellow Fox and in natural language ask it if something's a scam. Also, there's a wizard I'm developing. So you just go online and it's like, what are you dealing with? Is it a text message? Is it a voicemail? Is it a snail mail? Is it somebody in person? And then you go to the next step and you make some choices and it tells you what to do, basically.
I really like that because a lot of times these scams, they just prey on your fear, on your sense of panicking, right?
Yep.
And so to be able to have someone to reach out to right away is already a sense of relief. Additionally, I like to teach my students how to do a quick Google search on whatever the topic may be. I may not know exactly what the latest scam is, but I can go onto Google and I'll show them 2022 Best Buy scam and then see what comes up from there, right?
Yeah. I mean, I call myself an expert and I've been in this world for a long time, dealing with scams and fraudsters and in computer forensics, but nobody's immune to this. I mean, even if you're not being threatened, something can merge you into something that's a scam situation. But the key is at some point you have to know that it's a scam to stop yourself. And I almost got scammed out of $500 the other day for some investment thing. And it looked real, but it turned out that my whole universe of the people that I trust, that whole site had been hacked. And so I didn't know that. And so and it can happen to anybody, right? But yeah, especially these phishing emails, they can look very convincing. So one of the key things about the framework that I teach, like, is the first T. It's called the TACT framework, right? And that's take a time out and take a breath. Like, you have the best frame of mind. You're not freaking out. You're not falling victim to the pressure, because that's the main thing the scammers will do, is pressure you into making bad decisions, right?
Agree. So yeah, like sometimes I'll say, stop, drop, and roll, right?
Yeah.
You remember the old fire drill, and when we were in school, you want to stop, you want to drop, you want to roll. You do not want to go towards the fire, right? Yeah. And what's the next step?
So the first step is T, take a time out, take a breath, which is the easiest one. And then the A is assess and avoid. So it's some critical thinking about what you're doing, right? Just take a step back, look at the text message. Oh, did I really get a parcel today? Did I order anything from Amazon? Just a little bit of thinking will make you down the track of being like, you know what, this is probably a scam, right? That's when the goal of A is assess and avoid. So whatever steps it takes you to avoid the situation.
So I want to interrupt you right there because, lately I've been getting so many phishing emails from McAfee. Okay. Yeah. From McAfee. I'm sure you have too. It seems like there's one like almost every week. Mm-hmm. So the first time I got it though, I said to myself, did we renew McAfee?
Yeah.
I've got to ask my husband, did he renew McAfee? Because on a glance, it looks legit, right? And so when you're looking at a phishing email like that with your skilled eyes, what do you look for?
Well, I look for a couple of things that are a little bit outside the box. Like, why would McAfee be reaching out to me to tell me that I just paid, right? They got the money. They're not going to need to remind me that I just got paid, or they're not going to need to remind me that my payment is coming up and it's going to be automatically charged, right? Because they're going to just charge my credit card. That's how that model works, right? But one thing you can do to quickly figure out if something's a scam email is if you hover over any of the buttons in the email, on the bottom left-hand side of your screen, you'll see a little preview of the address it's going to. And if it's anything other than just McAfee.com, it'll be like some slew of string of letters, then you know it's a phishing email. Just delete it, right? But also, like you asked your husband, that's a really good thing to do. Cross-check outside of the box, right? Check your credit card bill. Did you get billed by McAfee? If you didn't, just ignore the email, right? Because at the end of the day, it has to deal with money. And they're trying to, if you didn't pay for something, like Chloe does this to me, like, what is this bill for from this? And I have to go double check. And yes, I probably paid for it, right? But it's good to double check. Otherwise, the next thing you know, it's 4 years later and you've been paying $100 to somebody you don't even know, right?
I actually find that quite often with my students. I try to teach them to go into their Apple ID, to click on purchases and subscriptions and see if they're being erroneously charged for Apple Music, for instance, or something that they didn't approve. But the other thing too that I've noticed with some of these emails is that they're letting me know that they renewed and they charged my credit card. And that to me sometimes seems like, huh? I don't remember that. Right.
Yep.
And so that reaction in itself would may be enough for someone to want to click on the link and go to the next level of the phishing email.
Yep. And you think about it. The purpose of that email is, hey, I renewed your subscription, and it wants you to be like, no, I didn't. I didn't do that. Right. And so why would a company want you to do that? Right. That's a long-winded way to think about it. Right. Because there's easier ways to figure this out, like asking your husband, right, or checking your credit card bill. But the ultimate thing is, don't do something that's super convenient. Like if the bank emails you and has a button, don't click that button, because it's probably a scam, right? Like it shouldn't be that easy to get into your bank account. It shouldn't be that easy, right? So that's the thing you can use it as a rule of thumb. Like if something's too easy or seems too good to be true, it probably is.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And okay, so continue on, please. And I'm so sorry, I've interrupted you 100 times. So we've got the T, which is take a breath. We have A, assess and avoid. What else?
And the next one, which is one of the most important, is C, cross-check. And this ties into what we were just talking about. So in the exercise, we talk about cross-checking. And so whatever source comes in as a voicemail, a text message, an email, don't interact with the email or the text message directly. Let's say Chase calls you, right? This is Chase Bank calling. We're looking at a fraudulent charge. Press 1 to connect to us. No, that's a red flag. Cross-check is about taking control of the situation. And the way you do that is by finding the actual number for the purported person calling you. Let's say it's Chase Bank or Costco or Walmart, right? And you have this list. And while you're in that pressure situation, you reference your list and you call them directly, because you now know you're talking to Walmart. You're talking to Costco because you dialed the number, right? And so that's what cross-check is. It's take the actual source of the person that's supposed to be calling you, and call that place directly with the real phone number. That way you've cut out the scammer, right? Mm-hmm. And then what's going to happen every time is that person or that bank or whatever's going to tell you, we don't send messages like this. This is a scam. Delete it and move on with your day.
Yeah. Yeah. It seems like there are so many of these, but I love that action point to cross-check, not just assume that the phone number in your text message that you just received is factual, or the phone number in the email is factual. Go ahead and take the extra step. And I actually remind my students to do that as well. Call the number on your card, right? Call the number on your account statement. Don't just assume that this is the right company.
Don't even assume if your caller ID says Best Buy on it, that it's Best Buy. I actually, on my blog, I cover this, and it's kind of dangerous because I teach you how to do it as well. But how to spoof a number. It's literally, you go to a website and you type in, I want 1-800, blah, blah, blah. And if it's the Best Buy number, it's going to show up on the caller ID as Best Buy. And now I'm Best Buy. And I can call Chloe and tell her I'm Best Buy, but I don't do that because it's illegal. So. Great.
And people are really enjoying this in the comments. So thank you for that. Let's hear the next one. We've got TAC. What's after that?
Yeah. So the last T, Chloe, were you going to chime in on that, by the way?
Oh, I was just going to say, I had someone ask me the other day about, well, you have these spam services, your phone blocks out a bunch of numbers, but still they're able to spoof a number and make it look like they're Chase Bank, just like we said. And so that's why you have to go through that cross-check step.
Yeah. So, but the last T is almost, I think it's one of the most important steps, because it has to do with your community and your people and your friends and everybody. And it's tell someone. Before you take an action, call your neighbor, call your son, call Abby, call Chloe, and just talk about it. Be like, hey, I got this message. And in talking about it, you're going to start having your own thoughts about it. But 2 heads is always better than 1. And the chances are you guys will come to the conclusion that, oh, you know what? I saw this the other day. This happened to my daughter-in-law or whatever. So T, tell someone, is the last step, which all of the steps eventually end up with you making the same decision to avoid the situation and not do anything.
Yeah, but I think so much of it really goes back to that defense mechanism, right?
Yep.
And oftentimes, like when I'm working with my students, I'll say, if you're feeling pressured, it's a feeling. There's a feeling going on there, right? Yep. If you're feeling panicked, if you're feeling not even feeling well, that day. You know, these scammers, they're looking for just a little entry in which they can get in and extract information from you. And so much of that is based on that feeling,
Yep.
right? And
Yep.
so
And
what's the what? Go ahead.
no, yeah, no. So I go on I have a lesson on red flags, right? And I feel like the most important red flags are the emotional ones, because if
Mhm.
you have to step back from the situation. When you're in the middle of a situation, it's hard to think straight, and people can manipulate you very easily. And
Yeah.
so you have to listen to your emotions. Like, a voicemail should never make you feel scared, threatened, afraid, confused. Like, no, that's not what a voicemail is for. A voicemail is to convey information to you, right? And if that makes you feel some certain way, that's always a red flag that it's probably a scam, right? And you could skip around the framework and do whatever checks you need to do to make yourself feel better about it. But after a while, you'll start being like, nope, that's a scam, and just delete it, and you'll waste a lot less time of your day. But emotions are the key thing. Most people that do get scammed, even if it's like a romance scam or something, when they think back in hindsight, they're like, you know what? I kind of knew something was weird here. I kind of had an inkling. And that's the inkling that I'm trying to focus on, that you can detect more easily with practice. And then you'll be able to avoid the situation quicker.
So on in your community online, I want to know, are people sharing the scam alerts? I know, like, for instance, the AARP on their website, they have a fraud alert section on their website. I go there often. I point my students to it often. Tell me about how your community serves students and serves older adults in this way.
Yeah, so I mean, it's like Facebook, right? It works the same way. You make posts, you can like posts, you can comment on posts, and so there's really no limit to what people can share on there. Of course, there's going to be some moderation, so people don't, flame each other or start getting angry, because it's not for that. But it's a community that's not. It's aside from Facebook, right? Because it's just for this, right? And you find something cool, or you find something crazy that's going on, and you just post a screenshot, or you post a message on it, and then somebody's going to chime in. Like, me and Chloe both get alerts the minute somebody posts there. And then other people who have signed up, like who have followed a thread, they get the same alerts, so they can see what's going on with the thread. And that's kind of how it works right now. Since we're beginning, we have, like, I think 14, 15 people on there that post here and there. My mom is one of them. And that's because I guilt trip her into posting on there every so often. So, because she'll always text me and be like, I got this new text message. I'm like, put it in the community. And so, but that's basically what it's like. Chloe, do you have something to add to that?
No, I think you summed it up really well.
Yeah.
I want to talk about what happens after the fact, because that's when I get pulled into a situation so often. After someone's been scammed, after something's been hacked into, what happens after the fact? What are the necessary steps that you should take after this has happened?
Yeah. So there are numerous steps, right? And I'm going to tie this into a larger discussion here, because some of these steps that I could tell you to take are steps that you should take right now before you get scammed. And one of them is freezing your credit, right?
Okay.
There's 3 agencies that you have to freeze your credit with. You go online, you tell them you want to freeze it, you create a login or whatever, and you freeze your credit. And what this does is this prevents anybody outside in the world from opening a new credit line in your name. Because otherwise, I could just go, let's just say somebody has a good picture of you, right? And they make a good ID, and they go to the Ford dealership and they buy a new truck in your name. All they need is your ID, right? And there's identity theft all day. They can put their own picture on an ID. They have your information. I just assume that everybody has my information, right? But with the credit freeze, they go in there, they're going to get blocked, right? And it doesn't affect your credit rating. It just affects people not being able to open new lines of credit in your name. Now, let's say I actually want to go to the Ford dealership myself. I just go to the website, I type in my one-time code, and they give me, like, either a code to give to the dealership or a code to give to somebody, and that's a one-time use code. So the minute they check my credit—
Let me interrupt you for 1 second, because I found that the multi-factor authentication, or 2FA, or however you call it, that older adults severely dislike this.
Yes.
They totally dislike this. They distrust it. But
Yes.
I try to teach them that this is an opportunity for you to further secure your identity by having 2 ways of verifying that it's actually you. So lean into it, get good at it, have them send it to your phone instead of having to get an email, leave a website, go to the email, wait and it's not coming through. Have it go to your phone. It will show up in your text messages. Like, I'm crazy passionate about this because I know it affects so many, and so many of my students dislike it.
I hate two-factor authentication. It's a pain, right? But I have to use it because that your little alphanumeric password, right? First of all, most of us are not we're gonna use something. This is what the funniest thing is I see in forensics, right? You think you're making a really clever password, but it has your dog's name, your daughter's name, your birthday, your house address. Like, this is what everybody uses because it's easy to remember. And most people aren't using long, complicated passwords. Chloe and I do because we have a password manager, right? And that's still a pain, right? It's extra effort in order to stay secure. Security is effort, right? But the two-factor is the lowest hanging fruit, and it will secure you, because otherwise these passwords are, I mean, you can, the more powerful computers get, if your password's only 10 characters long, it'd probably take my computer about 15 hours to crack your password.
Yes, and if it's 12 characters or more, it takes 2 decades.
2 decades. If you have symbols and all the different things, you have to have a bunch of different variables. If it's just letters, 12 characters, 20 characters, I'll figure it out in like 10 hours max.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, but I don't do that in real life. I just have before to test it out. So
yeah, well, like last week, I was teaching a series on pain in the portal, because so many of my students are having to log into various patient portals and they hate them. But there's so many benefits associated with them. And if they could come up with a secure password for each and every patient portal, it would be a lot easier. So we talked a lot about making them unique and secure for each portal.
Yeah, no,
so
there's other ways to do that. Yeah. And I like that, because you can have a long, complex password, but then tack on maybe the website name or some initials, and you know what it's for. That's also good. Yeah.
I highly recommend. My mother, for example, used to have an encyclopedia of passwords because she can't remember them. And she used to call me every week. She's like, honey, what's my password for this website? Finally set her up with a password manager, so she only has to remember one very long password, and then it remembers passwords for all of the numerous websites that she logs into.
Yeah.
The password managers, they're obviously the very best way to go.
Yeah.
But I would say 1 in 10 of my students are using it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'd say if you're
learning curve.
Yeah, big learning curve. And if you're under the age of 80, that many of my students don't trust it, and so I just try to meet them where they're at with that, and come up with other alternatives. So I wanted to also ask you about other ways that people can get better at having this defense mechanism.
Yes. So one thing to rewind real quick, another thing that you absolutely have to have is identity monitoring. You have to have an identity monitoring system, because it's super important. Whatever it does, it'll tell you stuff. So how can they get better at these instincts, right? And it's through practice. And so I like to make it so that I imagine my mom at dinner with Chloe's mom or something, right? And like the waitress comes up and they ask her a question, and then like they go away, and maybe Laura, her mom, is like, I got to use my TAC framework to figure out if they're charging me for the right price or the right meal item, right? So to make it a game, like, wherever you are, use the TAC framework. Like, assess, what's this guy really doing over there at the other side of the sidewalk playing a guitar with no shirt on in New York City, right? Like, you could use it as a game, and then it becomes instinct. And the next thing you know, you'll find yourself like not RoboCop, like Terminator. It's just an automatic thing that happens. Like, I'm checking this out. This is probably a scam, and it's through repetitive motion. But also, because the acronym is easy, TACT, right? That was my hope, is that it will help you to trigger. Just first take a breath, be calm, and then assess the situation. Just make some simple critical thought about the situation, and you'll probably figure it out, because you made it this far in your life, right? You're probably savvy at a lot of different things, and this is just a little one that you could learn that'll go a long way at the end.
I totally agree. In fact, I think it would benefit a lot of communities if they had regular access to your training, and if they had like a regular place on one of their engagement platforms where they could post any scams or themes that, they've seen from, because if it's happening with one resident, it's happening with more than one resident.
Yep.
So I really think it's an ongoing conversation. It's not a one and done. It's something that you really need to practice for. You need to get used to seeing it, and you need to be on the lookout at all times.
Yep. And I mean, Chloe can tell you a little bit more about this, but we're partnering with a bunch of different organizations because we want to expand our reach and make it available to everybody. And so, I mean, Chloe can talk a little bit about that. I don't know if you
Oh, I think it's super important for independent living, assisted living. It's in their DNA to care about their residents, right? And so being able to offer them a service that is showing their family members even that this is a holistic approach, that you care about your residents, that you're promoting them to age well independently and stay financially protected. It's super, super important. I mean, you see companies require their employees to take data security training. So why not offer that for your residents?
100%. The three of us could get in a room and just talk about this for hours, because I can tell you guys are matched my level of passion with this topic, because I hate to see older adults get scammed. I just hate it.
Well, I love visiting the residents, because sometimes they have birthday parties for pigs, and like you'll see the most, amazing things going on in the community center. So I love visiting. So there could be an on-site portion to this as well, if we see that's, going to be beneficial to the users.
That's right. Like a fellow fox in every community, right?
Yes, that's the goal.
Yeah,
The goal is to
right
make
on.
you a fellow fox. So everybody's going around and they're really underneath their foxes that are clever and sly and can avoid these scams.
Absolutely. So tell me, guys, where's the best place for a community to get in touch with you, or someone who's interested in taking your course?
Chloe?
Yeah, you can just go to our website, fellowfox.com, and or you can reach out to us, hello@fellowfox.com.
All right. And any parting words, anything lately that's happening right now that we should be aware of?
I'm sure Chloe has something, but I just want to say to everybody watching, like, be confident in yourself. Don't be afraid of scams. Like, you have what it takes to avoid these things. You have what it takes, the wherewithal to avoid them. And so just don't be afraid. And my goal is to empower you. But go ahead, Chloe.
No, I want to stop there because that was such a powerful statement.
I agree. I'll stop right there too. And fellow Fox, Partha and Chloe, thank you so much for coming on board. Thank you for educating the people that we love and we want to protect. And for our viewers out there, we'll be reposting this broadcast again later on today. And I'll see you all back here next week. And there we go. You guys, I will say goodbye to you. For some reason, the show outro is not running, but I just wanted to say goodbye, and I'll see you again next week.
Thank you.
You're so welcome. Bye.